The Epilepsy Foundation estimates that each year, 1 in 1,000 people with epilepsy die from SUDEP, which stands for Sudden Unexpected Death in Epilepsy Patients. Now, Victor and Libby Boyce want people to be aware of the statistics of other vital information about epilepsy. Their son, Cameron, died after having a seizure in his sleep. And many of you may recognize him, as you see right there, from Disney Channel's 3 Descendants movies, the series Jessie, or the films Grown Ups and Grown Ups 2.
Yeah, following his death, the Boyces started the Cameron Boyce Foundation. They join us this morning to talk about the organization, spreading awareness about this disorder. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And, of course, our sincerest condolences to you over the loss of your son.
Thank you.
I have 2 little girls that are huge fans of your son, especially after seeing him as Carlos in The Descendants. And he had actually been on our show here before. Yeah, he was actually scheduled to come back to the show. And then we received the really so upsetting news that he had passed away. Now,
Yes.
when you found out the cause of his death, were you stunned? I mean, we were all stunned because he had these seizures before, right?
He had about 5 seizures in his lifetime. He got diagnosed at age 17 with epilepsy. And I think when we heard that he passed away, I think we knew that it was a seizure, just because that was the thing that was on our mind. That was the only thing that, he had physically, an issue with. And so I had always worried about him, falling and hitting his head during a seizure, or, always watched him in the pool. Never knew that he could go to sleep and never wake up again. That wasn't a thought in our mind, but we really didn't know much about epilepsy because he didn't have many seizures, and also because the medical community really didn't give us information or arm us with, tools for our toolbox of how to handle his epilepsy.
And so that sounds like a lot of the reason why you're here with us this morning, right? Because education, information, it allows us to then move forward and to prepare for things. So explain a little bit more about SUDEP, what you know about it, and why you want to really work to push out this information and get it out there, especially since the medical community, you feel, failed you in this space.
Yeah, I think that it's really, really important for the medical community, even at a new diagnosis with epilepsy, especially when somebody is newly diagnosed, to really tell them, look, find your triggers, make sure you take your medicine at the same time, what can happen, basically. And we had no idea. We didn't get that kind of information. So that's really important to what we're trying to do, is to give, knowledge is power. And power, then you can advocate for yourself, right? And so we're really trying to get awareness out there. Number one, for the fact, 1 in 1,000 supposedly die of SUDEP, but I believe it's very much underreported because coroners put different things on death certificates unrelated to epilepsy, heart failure, or, whatever they cause the person to die. Even for epilepsy, deaths are so common. Unfortunately, it's a very, very common thing that happens. And think about it. Do you hear about epilepsy?
No, you don't.
People
and
don't talk about epilepsy,
No.
and it's 1 in 26 people will have epilepsy in their lifetime. So,
and this is why you started the Cameron Boyce Foundation, right? Tell us about it.
Unfortunately, we had never heard of SUDEP until that's what the coroner told us that's what our son died from. So we were blindsided by that. And we also realized that epilepsy is stigmatized to a great extent versus like cancer or Parkinson's or MS. People just don't talk about it, and it has some kind of taboo thing about it. So we want to change that narrative and have, people talk about it directly and get more research dollars and more eyes on the problem, so that we can move it forward so no one has to experience what we went through.
Yeah, Victor and Libby, shine that light, shine that light. You just had a huge fundraising event which brought together
Yes.
so many performers who've actually worked with your son in the past.
Yes.
What's it mean to see when you were saying that epilepsy seems stigmatized, to see people come together, to raise the money, to raise the awareness, and also to celebrate Cameron and all that he is?
Well, it was strangely, it was a joyous event. And that was the kind of light and radiation that my son had. You know, he was always positive and bright and vibrant. And that was the feeling of the event. And, you know, we see that it's possible to move the needle, to push epilepsy into the forefront as opposed to burying it, and really make an impact on trying to find a cure. So we were really overwhelmed, and it was a very positive experience. And it was our first one. You know, we were set back by the epidemic. You know, this was supposed to happen 2 years ago. And so when it finally happened, it was very, very encouraging.
Beautiful
I
event.
would also hear that, you know, there are a lot of performers and well-known people who have epilepsy who don't really talk about it. And so we find ourselves in a position, even though Cameron is no longer with us, to use his voice because he had a platform, and we just have to be loud.
Yeah.
You know, and
Start getting people to talk
it is
about
so hard to believe that this Friday already marks his 3-year anniversary of the founding of the organization.
Yes.
And in that time, like you said, you've raised more than $1 million for research. What else are you hoping to achieve through this foundation, and how do you hope it will benefit others?
Well, we want to cure epilepsy, basically. I can't tell you how many messages we've had about people who we've sort of changed their perspective on their epilepsy, and they're becoming more active in their own care, and they're, you know, going to see an epileptologist instead of the neurologist that they've been seeing, who's not specializing in epilepsy. So we're changing people's lives, hopefully, and saving lives, because, you know, there's so much information out there that's not shared regularly with patients about epilepsy, and we just know that everybody knows somebody with epilepsy. This is not, you know,
Maybe we don't even know them because 1 in 26 people have it. You guys are shining a light. We thank you for it. You can obviously lead a normal life. Knowledge is power. It can keep you healthy. Thank you, Victor and Libby, for being here to spread awareness about epilepsy. I want to show on screen where people can go for more information, the CameronBoyceFoundation.org. Also, No SUDEP Now. .org. Make sure you know, and let's normalize this. You guys are great. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Victor and Libby, thank you.